Welcome to the Intercourse Show. I am your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you. The topic of discussion is an old Kevin Samuels clip on conditional femininity not being allowed. Now, in this clip, Kevin Samuels makes some statements about how he feels women's nature these days, modern women, are to be a bit more masculine than feminine. And they will offer that femininity on a conditional basis. And so we'll go ahead and watch him make the clip and then react to it accordingly.
Nephews, kinfolks, and cousins. Godfathers here in Miami. Welcome to Miami. Bienvenidos a Miami. Getting there. All right. So how was it doing? I didn't get a chance to go live. I'm a little late today because I did a live on YouTube. And I want to have a conversation. And I really want to have a real conversation with the ladies, the lovely ladies. Okay. I have been hearing so much indirect communication about all of these podcasts and digital shows, in particular with black men, just popping up out of nowhere, belittling and humiliating and any other black women. And I'm hearing these women asking the serious question of, is this a new thing? What is it? And I'm like, I would ask a question like that to the open Twitterverse or the open Instagram. My thinking is that if you really want to ask that question, ask somebody making the content. Ask me. I'll tell you where it comes from. But that's why I responded. Is this a good faith question, or is this just some sort of ego stroking? I want to get my 2 cents on. What it really seems to more men is just another way to control and dominate the conversation, because you don't really want to have a real goddamn conversation. You want us just to shut up. It's not going to happen. Men. Is it belittling or is it critique? Because whether we want to admit it or not, ladies, you have no problem critiquing men to the point of trolling. I don't want the scrubs and all sorts of kind of stuff. I mean, we don't have to go back that far. Women have often went to the public sphere to air their concerns out and issues. Well, guess what? Men are too. And they're not going to stop. As a matter of fact, it's only going to get more and more pronounced and louder because women are not listening. Now you have women who are hearing the noise, but you're using the same old tactics that you used to use. Shame, insults, guilt, the need to be right, sign language. And men are not doing that because they grew up listening to this sign language. They grew up listening to you telling them that their opinion didn't matter, then turning around saying how much you loved it. Do you love them, or do you only love men when they do what you say they wanted to do? The kind of men that are going to have to get out to build in this world, to build and compete, are not weak men. And they have criticism, critiques, they have standards. I also got another thing. These men live in the real world, because as men, we got to deal with the real world. We got to deal with the world on facts, figures, statistics, data, numbers, and we rank you. We rank you, and we're going to rank you. And that's all it is to it. We're going to rank you, and we're always going to rank you because that's what we do. And it is in your best interest to get over it. One of the problems is we don't have Miss America, beauty pageants, and all these things like we used to where women could actually rank themselves. So my question for you ladies is this. Women in general, black women in particular, don't allow men to rank you. Give us the ideal feminine standard. As an individual black woman Who is the one black woman you point to as the height of a feminine ideal for you? And allow us to use that. Don't forget what we got to say. Just say, you know what? But this is where it is.
I see what he's saying in this particular clip. I think he's saying some women take offense if a man was to say, well, if I specifically compared you to a group of other women that other men find attractive, I would rank you on a 10 scale, I don't know, a 6 or 7 or 8 or a 4, right? Based on these criteria that I know men like. Now, that's not to say that, you know, that's the end all, but that's one man's opinion. For a lot of women, they take a lot of issue with that. They feel like it's a very chauvinistic thing to do to rank a woman, because you shouldn't have the right to do that. Even though, on the flip side, women do rank men, depending on what they perceive that man has. If the man, appears like he has a lucrative job, if he's tall, if he looks like an athlete, if he's an artist, if he's a celebrity, they tend to rank high. These are the men that most women tend to gravitate after for one of the many things that I listed: their fame, their riches, or maybe this their natural attributes. But if a man does that, a lot of times there's pushback because it's viewed as, inappropriate for a man to have an opinion about, a woman's body and things of that nature. Um, or if a man's not interested in a particular woman, he shouldn't be able to vocalize his opinion. And I think what he's saying here is, let's not personalize it. Let's simply look at it from this standpoint. What is a woman that you are aspiring to be like, just to avoid the feeling of being personally attacked? Give me the woman that you would sort of align yourself more like, that is a celebrity that everyone knows. So let's just say that woman is, I don't know, Beyonce, right? So now he would take an attribute of Beyonce. She's an outspoken woman who's very accomplished, who's very influential, who's very opinionated. She's quick to tell a guy to go to the left, that type of thing. And then let's judge that woman on the basis of the criteria that we're talking about. So this is what he's talking about here. If the person said Michelle Obama, then they would take Michelle Obama as a standard, and then he would judge that accordingly. So what he's saying is, pick a figurehead that represents the aspirations you have, that you think is somebody that's more aligned with you, and then we'll critique that celebrity, rather than critiquing you directly. That way, it's a less painful thing. That's what I perceive you saying.
Where is it? Because here's the thing: when you name a woman, that's going to be the top. Just like you hear so many women today talking about, I'm a 10, I'm a 10, I'm a 10. Then the follow-up question: so there's no room for improvement? Well, there's always room for improvement. Ladies, is it criticism or belittling? And if you don't like it, you have two options: get better or go somewhere else. But it's not going to change. We are your men, and we get a say. We don't have to, we're going to tell you what we want. What fool goes to a restaurant and just says, bring me whatever you have? That's not how you pick men. Ladies, you pick men based upon a ranking. And if men don't meet your ranking, you'll put them in the friend zone, which is you'll keep them around for non-sexual time, attention, companionship, but he didn't rank high enough to get laid. So that's why I laugh when I hear all this stuff. Well, it's belittling and belittling. No, it's called balance. It's called balance, and the end goal is this: to get women back to a state of reality. The overwhelming majority of women want a more luxury lifestyle. High value man, whatever. You want a more luxury lifestyle than you can afford. Ask the average woman.
Imagine bringing your side project to life just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Would you be happy and content with a man who's earning average money and he's happy and content with himself? And she will say, yes, as long as he's ambitious, or yes, there's some kind of caveat. So, in other words, men today have to make a lot of money for women to be women of old. That ain't gonna work either. The notion that, well, women back in the day, well, women in other countries and men in other countries make more money. There's no such thing as conditional femininity, ladies. If anything is belittling, it's the sheer lack of true femininity in the average modern Western woman. That's the belittling factor. The fact that what you're seeing is so many women who are in their masculine energy are in conflict with men. It's not going to do anything about it. So let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. One at a time. Is it belittling? Oh, no. No, no, no. If you've already been on here, you can't come. No, Big Shirley. Yeah, just starts to big. All of a sudden, they want 6 figures, and that's so many women are upset today that I'm telling men, if you're in the top 15% of earners, if you're making $75,000 or more, man, the world is yours. Women don't like that. It's like, what? The world is yours? Yeah, because women want men who are top earners. If you're in the top 15%, you are special, man. You are special, and you deserve to be treated special. And sadly, so many women today, we got to back into it, so I'm going to show y'all the rest of it. I'll show y'all all my stuff. But so many women today, you know how many men I know who have sat down and told me that I didn't even recognize that I was special. I didn't even recognize because all I do was work. And I'm like, yeah, man. Because that's what you're supposed to do. But because so many men don't recognize they're special because the women are not treating special men like they're special. And then now you start to see a differentiation. And what it comes down to is women are going to have to just compete.
Okay. So that was Kevin Samuels and his opinion on femininity. Now, if I had to weigh in on this, I'd say he makes a valid point. It is very true that some women feel like they can be submissive only if they feel like the man is masculine enough for them to do that. If he's alpha enough for them to be submissive, then they'll be submissive. Otherwise, they don't approach that. And I think the flip way of looking at it is if a man wasn't a masculine man because he said, well, I'm not your husband, so I don't need to be masculine for you, would that still apply? And most women will say no. If the man's not masculine when you meet him, period, it's probably not going to take a marriage to make him masculine. So in the same way, if a woman is not feminine, if she's not tapped into her feminine energy, when you meet her, and if she gives you the condition of having to feel safe enough to be feminine, then you already know that's not gonna fly. And so I think there's a fear around whether or not it's safe to be feminine or if someone's going to take advantage of you. And I found that in the dating world, a lot of people are catering more to their fears than they are to their hopes, to their faith. And fear is the inverse of faith. So if you're so fearful, you're projecting the thing you don't want to happen. You're fearful of the man not being the masculine leader you want him to be. You're fearful of him not being the provider that you want him to be. You're fearful of the man not essentially simplifying it, making your life easy. So then you feel like you have to remain guarded, and you can only offer your feminine side, your femininity, on the condition that certain criteria are met. And to me, that's very off-putting for men, because men are like, wait, so you're only gonna cook for me if I'm your husband? What? Like, you only do this behavior because that's wife behavior, and you only do that behavior if I put a ring on you, and it's like you're not doing it now. So that means you're doing it on the condition that you're a wife, but the Bible says he who finds a wife finds a good thing. Predisposition there is that you are already a wife when you were found, meaning you had the characteristics of a wife. You had the mindset of a wife. You had the character of a wife. You actually moved as a wife. And what you do with the little, you will do with the much. So if you were already feminine, if you were already sweet, if you were already loving, if you were already nurturing, if the man sensed that, that's going to be the reasons why he makes you his wife. But if you're giving him hard masculine energy, there's nothing in him that's going to feel like it's safe for him to commit to you for a lifetime, if that is the essential behavior he can expect from you. So for the women who are fearful of showing their feminine side to a man that they're potentially dating and things like that, I think it's bad advice to not to. I think you should be who you are. A man who's loving should be loving to his woman up front. You don't want a man who's disrespectful to you up front and says, well, if you were my wife, I would respect you. You'd be like, what the heck is this? Like, nah, I would never become your wife because you're not respectful in the first place. I don't care if you're giving me this notion that you will eventually be respectful once I become your wife. It's not what you're doing now. So in the same way, a man wants a woman who is in her feminine energy, who wants to show him, love and affection, and who wants to be the soft voice, who wants to help him as his helpmate, and bring attention to things that in a different way, with a softer tone, a softer approach. Men are attracted to that, and they generally tend to make those type of women wives way more than they make the masculine women wives. Now, that's not to say that you can't be feminine and still accomplish a lot, right? And I think a lot of people associate, well, in order for me to succeed in said industry, I have to be masculine in nature. That's not necessarily the case. You can still be sweet, you can still be loving, and you can still be strong and tough and stand on convictions and have principles. But that doesn't mean you take all that home to your person. It means you got to understand how to navigate the environments that you're in. And I think that's what he was speaking to, is that when men speak up online or other platforms and say, it's not a good look when our women are yelling and presenting themselves in a certain way and it's masculine, or if we're interacting in public and we're cussing each other out, or you're yelling at me and I'm yelling at you, and it's very combative. That's not a good look in terms of how it reflects on us as a couple. If a man says he doesn't want a woman who's so outspoken that it's outright disrespectful, or she's loud and she's a bit ratchet, or whatever the case, that's not a man belittling a woman. He's simply saying there's certain behaviors that doesn't reflect well on our relationship in the public square. So obviously, let's not, discuss certain things or manage ourselves in a way that brings about negative attention to our household or to our family. And unfortunately, in our community, some of our women have the tendency of being viewed as aggressive, as outspoken, and sometimes outright disrespectful, not just to the men, but to others. And we don't want that perception to be there. And so as a man, you would naturally want to protect the image of your woman and make sure that she's presented as a lady, not as this aggressive person who's, loose with the mouth, who's disrespectful, who's not reading the room properly. So, and in the same way, a woman doesn't want her man to be viewed as a punk, as someone who gets run over, as a person who gets taken advantage of. You want your man to have a backbone. You want your man to have a presence when he steps into a room, right? So if a man's coming in and he don't have a presence, or he's representing himself in a very feminine light, that'd be like a woman who has a man who's with feminine tendencies. You step in a room and that man's acting like a female would act. You'd be embarrassed by that. You'd be like, whoa, why does my man do that? And around other men, he doesn't have the respect because he's portraying himself like a female, and men don't react to that well. So, you can't influence what's happening in the room because the man doesn't have the presence and the influence that he needs to have on others to move them to do what you would like done. So it's on both sides. And I think what he's saying is, let's not be selective about who gets to state their opinions without criticism and who doesn't. Let's not be selective about when it's right to be feminine and when it's appropriate to be masculine. No, what he's saying is keep that same energy. You know what I mean? Like, show the same respect in terms of how you approach things as you expect to get. So that's my take on this quick little video. It's been a little while since we've done one of these reactions to these Kevin Samuels clips. I think that man was highly misunderstood by a lot of people. I think he had a lot of good information, but his style was very direct, very raw. And I think it was necessary because there's a group and there's an audience that needs to have it raw, that needs to hear it the way he would put it out. And for most people, they misunderstood the tone and the energy, and I think the heart behind what he was saying. And it's not to belittle anyone. It's to simply say, hey, in our community, this issue, this is how we're perceived. And if we make these corrections and soften the tone and represent ourselves differently, then we could change that perception and probably have better results. More relationships can be intact. More relationships could form. And there'll be better ways to communicate so that things don't look so chaotic and that we don't have the statistics we have as a result of broken households and broken families. So with that said, I thank you guys for joining me for this particular clip. And I ask that you continue to stay connected to the show. If you're not already connected to the Intercourse Show, I ask that you like and subscribe and share the video. And also, I ask that you weigh in and share your opinions on what we're saying and what you heard in this particular episode and others. All right. With that said, peace and blessings to everyone until we speak again.